All right, we're back with another edition of the IndySiders. I'm the Heartbreak Kid, Mark Radulich, and over there is Big Sexy, Big Daddy Cool,
Honk, honk, honk.
Harry Broadhurst. How you doing, sir?
What's going on, Mark? How are you?
I am tired. I was it was said to me earlier, I am burning the candle at both ends. Yeah, that candle is all drippy wax right now.
Not only are you burning the candle at both ends, you're burning it in the middle as well.
Oh yeah, I am just I set the house on fire just to burn the candle down. So tonight we are going to review NXT Vengeance Day. Not exactly a independent thing, but it was a show that I was, as I'm starting to get back into wrestling, it was a show that I was interested in. Having now seen it, and I definitely have some thoughts. I will only say this, and then we'll double back to this later. I have been away from the NXT product for so long. I don't think I mean, I recognize people who've been in the industry a while, but there was definitely a lot of Googling while I was watching the show.
So a lot of this is a product of NXT 2.0, which a lot of people shit all over. But truth be told, 2.0 actually has kind of shaped the face of the industry as we know it. And we'll talk a little bit more about that once we get into the Vengeance Day breakdown.
Yeah, just to kind of address that, I think when the 2.0 happened, other than Braun Breaker, I saw who they had there. I didn't like it, but you also have to remember Vince McMahon was still heavily involved with NXT at the time,
And Bruce Pritchard.
Yeah, they were both heavily involved with not just NXT but the entire product at large. And I was definitely one of those people who gravitated towards NXT to escape Vince McMahon and
Fair.
escape Vince McMahon's WWE. So when he got his mitts all over that too, I was like, okay, well, there's no reason for me to watch this anymore. And then I just in general kind of fell out of love with watching wrestling to begin with. So now that I think Vince McMahon is gone because he's a sex pervert, get out here, you rapist. And the product feels like wrestling again. And while I kind of liked the idea of an NXT being a very expensive indie promotion, people that I had been watching on the indie circuit were showing up in NXT. I can definitely see like Obafemi. I had to look him up to see where he came from and what he was, because he's definitely my kind of guy. He's huge. And he's one of these guys that I guess they had a training program for college athletes.
NIL.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, that's not a bad idea. It's certainly a great place to get good athletes.
Well, you got to think about how some of the biggest stars in the industry have come through this as well. Take a look no further than this current SmackDown Women's Champion, Jessica Wolneski, professionally known as Tiffany Stratton. She was an NIL athlete through gymnastics in college.
Yeah, I had no idea. I got to tell you, Harry, a lot of these people, like, I'm trying to get caught up, and I'm learning who these people are. Like I said, I did a lot of Googling while I watched the show. But I honestly, like, watching the Royal Rumble was the first inclination I had that I don't know a lot of the newer wrestlers anymore.
Well, there's been a lot of turnover over the last couple of years as well, just because you're starting to see more and more of that Triple H influence on the roster, where a lot of the working stiffs that Vince used to be fonder of are kind of being phased out, and we're seeing a much more athletic brand of pro wrestling inside of the WWE.
Yeah, what happened to Omos? Is he still around?
He is actually. He just recently vacated half of the All Japan Tag Team titles because the belief was that he was coming back to the WWE.
Is he still under?
He's still under a WWE. Yeah, he is. I was just about to say that.
Did they send him to Japan to learn to work?
They did.
Oh, good for him. Good.
Well, and we've seen more and more Triple H working with Japanese promotions as well. Let's not forget that Shinsuke worked the Great Muda's farewell tour over there. They sent AJ over to work a match, and then Kairi Sane went over to work a match in Marigold. I think it was either Kairi or Io worked a match in Marigold, which was the offshoot promotion from the former owner of Stardom.
I want to address that for a moment, because I do think it's an interesting topic, and I know, like, we talked about like what we're going to talk about tonight, and I'm going completely in a different direction, which is fine.
Bring it.
I don't think Vince McMahon's philosophy, especially in the pre-internet days, of you are an exclusive employee of the WWF. This is the only place where people will pay to see you. I actually don't think that was a bad business idea. The problem is, I think now it's outdated because of the internet.
Well, I would argue to the point that actually Vince did not fully have that philosophy. There was times back in the early to mid 90s when people were under WWF contracts where they would still be working smaller independent dates as licensed through the WWF, similar to what we would see through TNA and AEW through their booking agents.
Yes, if Vince McMahon got a slice, or
Right.
Basically, as long as he had control over it, it was fine. Like, I remember they worked with Lawler's promotion, but Lawler worked for the company.
Right, USWA.
Right, they sent people to ECW too.
Right, but there were cases of smaller independent shows as well. I can think of a couple examples for a local International Wrestling Alliance or Association. IWA used to run shows here in Ohio,
right,
and we would get lower card guys, but people that needed the work. So your Candidos, your Marty Jannettis, your Al Snows, and stuff.
That still follows the logic of Vince McMahon saying no outside bookings except the ones I have I can.
Oh no, 100%.
So again, the philosophy of, I understand what you're saying is like, well, it wasn't 100%. Okay, but I think he also he wanted a lot of control over the roster. He was like, I will give you opportunities. I will pay you big money, but I don't want you going off the reservation. And if that reservation happens to be a night in this independent that, that I'm giving permission for and getting maybe a slice of, that's fine too. My point is, I think that philosophy worked before the internet because really the only place you could see wrestlers, unless you went to go see them live, was on television, which he had which paid him a fee and they got a big part of. Now with the internet, it's so easy to see people anywhere. I think there's twofold. I think one, Triple H being very much of the philosophy of for the workers. And for people who don't get a lot of opportunities on the main roster, going out and taking an independent booking, which is why they do it, it supplements your income. And I think, Triple H going, all right, we don't need to be quite so controlling anymore. This idea of exclusive talent, this being the only place you see him, is sort of passe. So now I think the idea of the WWE working with Japan, working with TNA, working with all these other companies, and being a very progressive philosophical company, it's nice to see. I'm more interested in seeing where things go now than I was a couple of years ago when Vince McMahon was still holding on to things and being very controlling.
So my theory to that is that I think Triple H also realizes that this is an opportunity for them to get an in-person scout on some of the talents that they're looking for their WWE ID program, which we talked about on the last episode, for the Evolve show that's launching on Tubi this Wednesday night, for their WWE LFG that just got apparently got fantastic reviews for its debut episode on A&E this past Sunday.
So is LFG basically the new Tough Enough?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Although it's people that are already signed under NXT contracts, though, because we see people on there like one of the people on there was actually from the new Tough Enough, BJ Ray. He's on this version of LFG, as well as people that we know are under developmental contracts, like Tyra May Steele, who's the former the girl who won the Olympic gold medal in freestyle wrestling.
Do you think there'll ever be a day where they'll look at like GCW and start to bring some of those people in? Like, do you think there's any from Triple H's perspective, from the WWE executive perspective, do you think there's any value in looking at GCW for the top of the indies?
So we've already seen them work with GCW because of Bloodsport, with people like the Creeds and Shayna Baszler and others of that ilk that we've seen cross over into Bloodsport for GCW.
Was that though the WWE, or was that?
Yes.
No. I'm saying, like, let's take the example of Shayna Baszler. I know she was still under contract at the time. Was that just go be free, my sister, or was that, or did the WWE send her?
Apparently, Barnett and Triple H worked it out, from what I understand.
That's cool.
Because we also saw people like the Creeds on Bloodsport as well. The Creeds are considered high-value prospects in the WWE, considered by many to be the tag team of the future there, including arguably the most athletically credentialed athlete on the roster currently in Brutus Creed, who's a two-time NCAA heavyweight wrestling champion.
Cool. All right. So
that Sprite's whooping your ass.
A lot of things are whooping my ass these days. Let's get into so we can work our way towards Vengeance Day.
Cheers.
Yes. So here's to you.
Salute.
Let's talk about I know you've been dying to talk about this. We got into it a little bit on the last show. Let's talk about the WWE TNA agreement. What did you want to bring up specifically?
Okay. We are officially dubbing it NXTNA, which I think is hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
I just choked a little bit on my Dr. Pepper there. Anyways, so the general belief is there's talk going around that Stand and Deliver may become a When Worlds Collide event.
Okay.
Which I don't think I would be opposed to, because I think that there are enough people in TNA that have history in the WWE that could work the show, as well as you could give an opportunity to some of the younger talent in TNA, guys like Ace Austin, who I think is fantastic, but hasn't had a mainstream platform yet.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing the Hardy Boys come over to NXT this Tuesday night on NXT when they take on No Quarter Catch Crew for the TNA Tag Team titles. They just announced on Impact last night last night, because today's Friday as we record this, that Cora Jade will be challenging Masha Slamovich for the Knockouts title at the next TNA Plus special.
Was Cora Jade the bimbo that used to come out on the skateboard?
Yes. Although bimbo seems a strong turn of phrase.
Oh my God. Liberal panty waist. Sorry. Was Cora Jade the cutie patootie that used to come out on the skateboard?
Yes, she went goth again, though.
Yeah, I see that. We'll get to it when we get to the Vengeance Day show. I kept looking at her. I'm like, I feel like you're the skater girl who couldn't wrestle. When did she feel serious and mean?
Well, she did a goth gimmick on the Indies before she went to the WWE as Elena Black. So
okay. We'll talk about that later. So what else about this TNA agreement? Now, is Jordynne Grace officially signed with WWE?
Yes.
On loan? Okay.
No, Jordynne Grace is officially under a WWE contract. She's made her official NXT debut. She showed up at, we'll talk about, obviously, the fact that she shows up at the end of Vengeance Day. But more specifically, we can talk about the fact that she had her first actual NXT televised match this past Tuesday night when she was in a part of the 6-woman tag main event where she teamed with Giulia and Stephanie Vaquer to take on Fatal Influence. I almost called him Fatal Attraction out of habit because of Mandy Rose.
That's okay. Every time I see Giulia, I want to call her Giulia. I don't know if you got the reference or not, because I know you don't watch movies, but people who
negative squirrel.
Yeah, somebody out there remembers the Adam Sandler movie, Giulia. Anyway, which actually reminds me, so AEW cut a few people from the roster, namely Miro and Absolute Ricky Starks, and what do you know, Joe? Absolute Ricky Starks showed up on NXT.
Ricky Saints.
I was going to ask you. I know he showed up, but he was not. He did not give a name at the time that I saw the video.
They ended up not coming to an agreement on Starks. He's going to use Ricky Saints under the NXT banner.
Okay, so he picked up a slave name.
Pretty much.
Okay, Ricky Saints, huh?
So my thing is I don't think this is the last of the defections to come from the people that just recently left. The talk is that Tony's finally going to give Ray Phoenix his release, and then as soon as Ray Phoenix gets his release, I think it kind of screws Penta with as much momentum as Penta has as a singles wrestler right now. But at the same time, I do think that the tag team division on Raw could use the kick in the ass that the Lucha Brothers could provide it. But The big speculation is with the Judgment Day and Finn Balor and who his WrestleMania opponent might be.
Which is what?
Which would be Aleister Black.
I was going to ask you, okay, so who are all the people that got cut from AEW? We have Ricky Starks, Miro,
Aleister
Black. Who else?
The belief is that Rey Fenix is going to be gone sooner rather than later.
Okay.
And then there was one other person whose name I do not remember off the top of my head.
Think there's any interest in bringing Miro back?
I think Miro's trying to work things out with CJ right now.
Okay.
Because they were separated for a while. I think they're trying to work things out. Do I think that eventually the two of them could return? Yes. Do I think it would benefit any party involved? Probably not.
Where is CJ now? Is she back with the company, or is she still with AEW, or is she just off TV?
She's off TV. She's not doing anything wrestling related. I think she has an OnlyFans.
Yeah. Well, maybe the best thing for their marriage is if he goes back on the road again. Kevin Nash used to talk about that. He was like, my wife and I got along great. Every time I got on her nerves, she just told me to go back out and make a movie or go wrestle.
Or go do a horrible CW comedy. Sorry. There was talk that CJ was hooking up with Damian Priest for a while, although I don't think that was ever officially confirmed.
How many of the AEW... First, let's tackle this in two sections. Okay. How many of the original defectors do you think will leave the plantation now that Vince McMahon, get over here, you rapist, is gone?
I think it's going to depend on a case-by-case basis. And the reason I say that is because I think there are people that have found that the grass is greener in AEW, and there are other people that have gone over to AEW and maybe had a hot start and then completely fallen off of the face of the fucking earth.
You mean like CM Punk?
I mean more specifically somebody like a Miro, who came over, was hyped upon his entrance, and then got paired with Kip fucking Sabian of all people. Before finally starting to do something in the feud with Andrade, and then both of them left the company.
So how many more? I know that there was a window there where MJF's contract was in fact coming to an end, and there was speculation he was going to jump. I'm guessing he's re-signed, which means how many more years left before MJF finally wakes up and smells the coffee?
I don't think MJF ever becomes a WWE superstar.
Oh, he's going to be the Sting of AEW?
I think he's going to go into Hollywood once his contract is up.
Oh, okay, just give up wrestling altogether.
Basically go the Dave Bautista route.
It's worked out great for Dave Bautista. I know you're not really a movie person, but when I tell you Dave Bautista, you might know of the big things he's done, like Dune, Guardians of the Galaxy. But let me tell you how Dave Bautista shows up in all kinds of weirdo movies.
Didn't he just do that Quiet Place or something? Like the movie about...
He did Knock at the Cabin.
That's it, Cabin.
Yeah, but I see him show up in all, he was in The Last Showgirl with Pam Anderson. I
mean, opportunity to do a movie with Pam. Even modern day Pam Anderson could still get it.
She certainly. I loved The Last. I know. Again, I take a drink now every time I say I know you don't watch movies, but I know you don't watch movies, but you might want to give The Last Showgirl a chance. It's a really good little indie pick.
Yes, you can definitely tell when it comes to our current viewing habits. I am pretty much the antithesis of the man to my visual left here.
Yes. Anyway, yeah, I mean, and like I said, Hollywood, Dave Bautista took it seriously. Hollywood has done wonders for him.
Cena.
John Cena. Again, you might think, John Cena has done a lot of action movies, but he kind of figured out the Rock's formula, which is you got to stretch, you got to do different things. And John Cena does a lot of comedies now, and he's actually better at comedy than he is action.
I will admit that I actually did watch Blockers, and I thought it was pretty funny.
The last John Cena thing I did that I recall was Jackpot. So Robert and I did
Amazon Prime movie.
Yeah, with Cena. I loved it. It was on the list of Robert and I did a Damn You Hollywood where we just did 10 streaming movies because we hadn't seen them and we needed to get caught up, and I was looking for the worst movies of the year, and Jackpot was on that list, and I watched it with my kids and we actually thought it was great. We loved it. So anyway,
I think Cena's acting skills are kind of underrated, honestly, and I think that kind of translates into his ability to connect with crowds as a wrestler too. A lot of wrestling kind of prepares you for this Hollywood thing. I mean, I've heard wrestling best described as live action theater, which prepares you for Hollywood.
Yep, it's one part gymnastics, one part theater. All right, so what about Wardlow? Wardlow's a big sexy guy.
I don't know what's going on with Michael Wardlow.
Okay. Well, I think he's wasting the best years of his life in AEW.
I think he's been wasting the best years of his life for like the last 3 years at this point.
I mean, he had to start somewhere, but I think when his contract expires, I absolutely think he needs to go.
I think the problem for Wardlow is he had that hot start with MJF, and then MJF threw his hissy fit at the Double or Nothing thing, and it just killed all of Wardlow's momentum dead.
Okay. I don't think Moxley will ever go back. I think Moxley is one of those guys that if you paid him in peanuts but let him be the creative psycho that he is,
I could see that.
He's happy. You know, I don't think Moxley's actually a good fit for the WWE anymore. Because Moxley's halfway a lunatic.
The only way that I could see Moxley going back is if they wanted to do a one-off Shield reunion one day.
Sure.
That would be the only way I would see him going back. I don't see him ever fully reprising Dean Ambrose on a regular basis ever again.
If the company ever wises up and stops letting wrestlers be EVPs, do you think Kenny Omega would ever make the jump?
Kenny almost went before AEW was a thing.
No, I understand that, but we're in the AD, not the BC time. So again, I ask you permission to treat the witnesses hostile. There's no reason for him to leave. He's a boss. Same thing with the Young Bucks, but that's a whole other kettle of fish.
To my knowledge, he's not anymore. Actually, I think I don't believe
the EVP thing.
I don't believe they're EVPs anymore.
Oh wow! Finally, we're actually running the company like a business. In that case, I will restate the question: do you think Kenny Omega pulls a Cody Rhodes and says "fuck this place"?
No. And the reason I say that is because I think Kenny's too involved in the other operations for AEW, such as the video game licensing, such as the podcast, such as the other visual ways that they connect with the fan base through other mediums, that I believe that Kenny is so firmly entrenched within AEW that I don't think he ever makes a jump. If he was going to make the jump, it would have happened before AEW was a thing.
What about Will Ospreay?
God, that would be a hell of a point picture from Triple H, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I think that bridge is burned.
Yeah, I figured it was worth talking about because we're here to talk. But yeah, I don't see it happening either. I'm not even going to ask about the Young Bucks. Those people are AEW until they decide to stop wrestling.
You know who I think will be, and sooner rather than later? I don't think Konosuke Takeshita is long for AEW.
Gesundheit.
I think Takeshita, take a shit, however you want to call him. I know Cornette loves to call him take a shit.
I don't give a fuck about any of these people. You know who I want to see in the WWE?
Same person.
You know who I want to see in the WWE? Rainmaker!
What?
I want to see Okada.
Oh, Rainmaker.
Rainmaker!
Oh, that was right in my ear.
What, we do it again?
Headphones are not my friend, jackass.
Behave yourself, or we'll scream Rainmaker in your ear.
So my issue with I think Okada's learning that the grass isn't greener here in the States.
Mm-hmm.
Because you take one look at how Okada's been booked over the course of his 2 years in AEW, and then look about the previous 3 years in New Japan, and you'll realize a very significant difference in how he's been presented.
Well, sure, he was a huge star in New Japan. But I think, with Vince McMahon, get over here, you rapist, gone.
Is that contractually obligated?
It's a tick.
You should see somebody about that. Continue.
I think with Vince McMahon gone, with Triple H being for the boys, I think Okada owes it to himself to give the WWE at least the old college try.
I agree with that, but I think if it were going to happen, it would have happened in the other order. I think he would have went to the WWE first, and then if he would have seen that he didn't care for the WWE style, the way that they do things there, then he would have went to AEW.
Who's the cutie patootie Japanese guy who got dropped on his head on the ring apron 97 times and made David Meltzer cry? Oh, you're supposed to know these things, especially when I give you great,
Kota Ibushi?
Maybe.
That's like Kenny's best friend.
Yeah. All right. All right. So Malachi Black, you think he, or Aleister Black rather, do you think he goes back to WWE?
Yes, I think Aleister Black is back as early as the build to WrestleMania. Well, his wife is still there too. So
right. FTR.
Yes. Triple H is a huge fan of both Scott Dawson, and Dax Harwood.
Okay. Mighty Mouse, what's his face?
Pac, no.
Okay.
I think there's a sour taste in Neville's mouth over the way that the first run ended that I don't think he'll ever go back.
Okay. What do you call it? The Undisputed Attitude.
Cole, Roderick Strong, and Kyle O'Reilly?
Yeah.
I would like to say yes, just because I think that there's so much more that could have been done with them there, but they're not getting any younger. And I think that era where them as a group working has passed.
Yeah. I don't really care about Kyle O'Reilly, but I would love to see Adam Cole, Bebe, back, and I would like him to take his wife with him.
They're separated. They're no longer together.
Oh, that's a bummer. But I like Britt Baker. She was one of the less embarrassing women in AEW.
See, I could actually see Britt jumping to the WWE once her AEW deal ends.
Okay, but you think Cole will stay?
I think Cole's going to end up in AEW. Here's one that might surprise you. I think Bryan Danielson eventually goes back.
Didn't he already have his last match?
I think he goes back and ends up taking over the Performance Center.
Oh, that would be a good role for him.
Well, you got to think that one of his most famous students is the head female trainer down at the Performance Center.
Mm-hmm.
The American Angel, Sarah Del Rey.
Right. All right. Let's get into, before we get into NXT Vengeance Day, unless there was any other news items you wanted to bring up, once, twice, three times a lady.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Elimination Chamber is a week from Saturday. It takes place in Toronto, the underground city of mole people up in Canada, on March 1st. And the card is, we've got the men's elimination chamber, and the winner gets an undisputed WWE Championship match at WrestleMania 41. Is John Cena, CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, Logan Paul, Damian Priest, and Seth friggin' Rollins.
There are two people who can win this match.
Okay.
The two people that I think are going to win this match, it's either going to be Punk or Cena.
So right now, who did Jay end up? Because again, I don't watch Raw.
Gunther.
He did choose Gunther, which we already saw on Saturday night's main event. Why are they doing this again?
Because Jay wants to prove to himself that he can beat Gunther because he came so close at Saturday night's main event.
Do you like this match?
Gunther versus Jay. I feel like there are bigger matches for Gunther, but at the same time, I think that Jay's getting crowned regardless at Mania. So him finally overcoming the monster that beat him at Saturday night's main event is a good story to tell. I don't think Jay's going to be a long-term champion, regardless of how fucking outrageous his merchandise sales have been recently, which is the main reason that he's in this main event match, in my opinion, because he's like the second highest merchandise seller in the company right now behind Cody.
Well, you can't knock the hustle. If he's selling,
of course.
If he's got a huge fan base and he's selling merch, I say, yeah, why not? We did the Warrior. Why not do Jey Uso? But can I tell you how I am so uninterested in Jey Uso? Like, I understand other people like him, and I don't watch the product enough to really have a vote. I'm kind of Puerto Rico when it comes to this stuff. But I can only tell you as a man who watches wrestling with his children and his girlfriend, I see Jey Uso come on screen, I am immediately disinterested.
So I would have agreed with you up until about 2 weeks ago.
What happened 2 weeks ago?
So as you know, I celebrated my 40th birthday a week ago today.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. 2 weeks prior to that, Monday, February 3rd, Raw was in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
and one of my friends got us tickets as a early birthday gift for me.
You left the house? My God.
I know, right? It almost never happens. But anyways, being inside of that crowd the Raw after Royal Rumble, and experiencing what that arena was like for Jay, making his entrance as the winner of the 2025 Royal Rumble, it's hard not to understand why they made the decision that they made.
Okay.
Because there are so many fans and so many children of those fans that are so invested in him that it's an opportunity to, similar to how Cena used to bring parents together with their kids back when Cena was becoming a big thing back in 04, 05, 06.
I'll tell you how this match has to go then. Gunther has to beat him within an inch of his life. He kind of has to look like, do you remember, I can't remember which WrestleMania it was, but Brock Lesnar beat the fuck out of Roman Reigns and he had like a bloody lip. And at one point he kind of got up and he was selling and he looked like he didn't know where on earth he was.
Was that the Mania that Seth cashed in?
I believe it was, yeah.
31.
Yeah, he was still doing the Suplex City thing, and he had done 100 of them to Roman Reigns, and Roman Reigns kind of sold it and got up just like he started to laugh. He was like, I'm a little slap happy now. That's kind of how this needs to go. Gunther needs Jay needs to get like no offense in on Gunther, and then Gunther needs to make a fatal mistake to like a near cripple Jay, and Jay becomes a house of fire and wins it like 5 minutes later.
So I get where you're coming from in that regard, and I could see that being the story at the start of the match. Specifically, that Gunther dominates the opening portion of the match.
Yeah.
Multiple chops. I want to see Jay busted open from chops, like the Gunther chop, because it's such an easy story. They fucking suck because he actually slaps the shit out of you. And Gunther
needs to chop him like he owes him money.
And then Gunther also has a series of high impact moves that he can use in order to set up believable near falls as well. The top rope splash, the power bomb, and the Northern Lights bomb specifically. So
Northern
you can
Light suplex.
Anyway,
Mavericks. Sorry, keep going.
So those can all set up believable near falls, especially as Jay's weakened by the series of chops as well.
Okay. With that being said, so we have Cody Rhodes who's slowly but surely going to the dark side, having been driven mad, I tell you, by Kevin Owens.
I think it happens the night after WrestleMania.
Can I tell you how Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes, I feel like, is the story of wrestling fans? How we have normal, good-looking, American-made, testosterone-filled men being driven crazy by fat, bearded incels.
I feel like we resemble that remark.
Not me. I'm like Cody Rhodes. Anywho, I live in a healthy state of delusion. Anyway, so
the Nile's not just a river in Egypt.
So having been driven mad, I tell you, by the king of the incels, Kevin Owens. Where are we going with Cody Rhodes, and who do you see him
Cena.
wrestling? That's right. We talked about this. Cena beats Cody Rhodes, and that's what drives Cody Rhodes finally over the edge.
Yep.
Turns him into the Joker.
Beats the absolute dog shit out of Cena the night after on Raw.
Yeah. And then I think what did we say last show? This was all leading up to Cena putting somebody over in December or at SummerSlam.
Braun Breaker.
Right. Okay. Because the other thing we talked about was maybe Seth Rollins and CM Punk.
I think. I would say that Seth and Punk would have been a Mania match if they hadn't done it at the Netflix debut.
Right. We talked about this though. The first match is the Netflix match. The second match is WrestleMania, and then they finally end
the blow off is in SummerSlam.
Yeah. But they don't need the title for that.
I agree. So my only concern is I think that they want to I think they want to give Punk his Mania main event at some point. And if it's not going to be this year, when is it going to be? So that's
he's not getting any younger. He's already looking like old man Punk.
And look at what happened last year with the triceps injury during the Royal Rumble itself.
Yeah, so looking at this Elimination Chamber, Cena.
It's either going to be Cena or Punk winning the Chamber.
Here's the thing. does Cody Rhodes drop the title before then? You know, so somebody
No.
has to. So we're gonna do Punk and Cody at WrestleMania. Is that what you're thinking? Either Punk,
It's
Punk
either
and
going to be
Cody
Cena.
or Cena and Cody.
Yes. And Cena and Cody's kind of been teased. And the reason Punk and Cody was teased as well is because I think they wanted to put that idea in people's mind as well. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Roman get involved in the chamber in order to cost Seth and or Punk the match because of the interactions that Roman and Punk have had on the build-up recently. Because there was talk going around that Roman versus Punk was going to be a Mania match, which I have to tell you, I would have a significant viewing interest in.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they could put like Paul Heyman on a hang him from the ceiling and do a ladder match.
Oh, we do Judy Bagwell on a forklift?
Yes. Do you remember the Survivor Series with I think it was Jose Lothario, where he
where Sid like backhanded him and he like had a heart attack?
Yeah. I may be conflating two different things because I remember they also had Paul Bearer like in a phone booth.
The Lothario one was Survivor Series 96.
Right.
Because that's when Sid beat Shawn for the title at the Garden.
Right, but I could have sworn there was a match where like Jose Lothario was suspended from the ceiling or in a glass case or something.
That would have been Paul Bearer.
Yeah, I think I was conflating the two. In any case, so either Cena or Punk wins the Elimination Chamber. Now let's move over to the women's. We have Liv Morgan, Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss. Liv Morgan, sorry. Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss. It's late. Fuck off. Bayley, who was just in the NXT, which we're going to talk about. Naomi and Roxanne Perez, who was also just in the NXT.
Roxy beat Raquel Rodriguez on Raw last week to qualify for the Elimination Chamber. This is Bianca's match to lose, I think.
Okay, so right now we've got Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte going into Mania, and Charlotte's got to put over Tiffany Stratton, right?
You would think, but I don't see it happening. I think Charlotte wins.
Yeah, Robert Winfrey had one of his pissy yelling fits at me, saying, "Oh, but you don't understand. That's practically Triple H's niece," and then he threw his penis at me.
Robert constantly bitches about Charlotte in the SmackDown report on 411 as well.
Yeah, look, my daughter constantly bitches about Charlotte Flair, and she likes everybody. If fucking age was a person, my daughter would still want to be its friend and still hate Charlotte Flair.
Jesus. That's quite the turn of phrase.
You're welcome.
That's something, all right.
So yeah, I don't want to live in a world where Tiffany Stratton, and I'm not even a huge fan of Tiffany Stratton. I don't know her well enough, but I don't want to live in a world where the new young hot thing gets beaten by Charlotte Flair, who doesn't need the win.
The problem is they can't seem to come up with a storyline for Charlotte that doesn't involve being involved in the title picture in some way, shape, form, or fashion.
That's their fucking problem. Be better writers. But
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying that seems to be the way that it goes.
So with Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair fighting over who gets to be the prettier blonde, who has belts now? Because this is another thing I've completely lost track of.
Well, we know who the NXT Women's Champion is. We'll talk about that here momentarily.
Yeah, Giulia.
Rhea Ripley's the Raw champion.
Okay, so the winner of the Elimination Chamber gets to fight Rhea Ripley?
Yes.
All right, so looking at this group of broads, Liv Morgan, Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, Bayley, Naomi, and Roxanne Perez. Isn't the clear choice here Alexa Bliss?
Sorry. No. And
Why
the
do you
reason
say these things?
And the reason I say no is because I don't think that there's any marketability in Rhea versus Alexa right now.
But Alexa's such a character, and Alexa has a built-in fan base, and I don't want to see any of the rest of these bitches. You know, we've already done Bianca Belair versus Rhea Ripley.
We actually haven't. It's only happened one time in a singles match.
Oh, I don't want to see it again. It happened a million times in NXT.
The one time it was in a singles match was on NXT.
Feels like it was more than that, but I believe you. I don't know. I'm just not interested in Bianca Belair versus Rhea Ripley.
Well, it's not going to be Naomi because I think Jade Cargill's going to show up and take out Naomi because it's going to be revealed that Naomi was the one who attacked Jade Cargill several months ago.
God, I hope so. Actually, that's who it should be. Jade Cargill versus Rhea Ripley would be the shit.
Roxanne Perez isn't ready yet.
No.
I like Roxy. I think that there's a lot of potential there. And Jesus Christ, the girl's only like 23 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So there's plenty of time for her to get these opportunities coming down the line. Plus, her last name isn't Flair, so she's screwed.
No, I want to see Rhea Ripley and Alexa Bliss have a Wizards duel.
I think you just want to see how many different ways Rhea can bend Alexa into different shapes.
I mean, if she can tie her up like a balloon animal and make her into a giraffe, that would be fine.
I'd believe it, for the record.
All right, who do you think's actually going to win this?
Bianca.
Ugh.
Sorry.
The only thing fun about Bianca Belair is when various women grab her by the braid and,
See,
whip her or anyone else with it.
You say that, but the problem is it happens in every fucking match now.
Yeah, I know. I'm well aware of that, but, I don't watch every match, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm bored with Bianca Belair. She's a great athlete. She's a very very nice addition to the roster. I want to see something new. I want to see something new. Give me that Alexa Bliss gal. She seems she's fun and interesting.
And Alexa is just coming back after missing the last 2 years.
See, it's like the Triple H push when he came back. It's a beautiful day with Alexa Bliss.
I'm having flashbacks to jean jackets in the Garden in 2002.
I was there that night that he showed up again. It's a beautiful day. Ugh.
It doesn't make you two any less shit.
They're not all bad. All right.
It's a lot of it is. And Bono's a douche.
All right. That I'm not going to argue with you about. All right. So we have Tiffany Stratton and Trish Stratus. Oh, God. Old lady Trish Stratus is still around. Good God.
I was waiting for you to see that.
And Nia Jax and Candice LeRae, the pretty
Candice Punching Dummy, I believe is her official name.
Okay. Anyway, Tiffany Stratton and Trish Stratus have to get the win here. That's the way this works.
Yeah. Trish and Tiffany over. Trish pins Candice. Nia attacks Trish after the match and sets up a singles for Mania.
Okay. And then finally, because we haven't seen this match enough, God damn it, fight forever, pals. Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens in a we don't have anything else left for you match.
And you know what? It's going to be just as good now as it was 10, 15, 20 years ago.
That's a complete lie. But
bet.
Whatever.
Watch them steal the goddamn show.
We'll see. God. Who do you think drives the pretty boys crazy more? Sami Zayn or Kevin Owens? In their entitled, incel-y, weirdo, autistic way that they do.
The views and opinions of Mark Radulich do not necessarily reflect those of Harry Broadhurst.
Sami Zayn's a dork, and so is Kevin Owens. That's their characters.
No, Sammy's a dork. Kevin's a dweeb.
Sounds fair. All right. Are we ready to get into Vengeance Day here?
God, I hope so.
All righty then. Vengeance Day. Took place on February 15th in Washington, D.C. at the CareFirst Arena.
Home of the Washington Mystics. For those of you wondering, that would be a WNBA team. No, nobody else cares either.
All right. If these are in the order that they actually appeared on the show, we start with Stephanie Vaquer, who defeated...
Vaquer.
Whatever. I almost called her Vader. Stephanie Vader defeated... Fallon Henley with two broads who I don't know who they are. JC Jane and Jasmine Nink. What happened to Tampon Girl? Where's she at?
Gigi Dolan, she's teaming with Tatum Paxley, who you also don't know who the fuck that is.
Did she also do weird shit with a tampon?
No, not anymore. They shy away from that now.
Oh, no more tampons?
It's a PG company.
What happened to the girl who wrestled guys who got damn near broken in half by a big muscly man? What happened to that chick?
Wasn't that Candice LeRae?
No, it wasn't Candice LeRae.
I mean, did you see that lumbar check that Cedric gave her in AIW?
I don't know. I remember Jed from the Casual Hero showed me a video of some girl whose whole thing was I'm as tough as any guy. She was the size of my 10-year-old son, and some guy who looked like fucking Braun Strowman just gave her a power bomb and she broke her in half.
That might have been Penelope Ford, actually.
Might have been. Did she also do weird shit with a tampon?
I don't know about her personal life.
Okay. Anyway, where's Tampon Girl again? Where is she on NXT or is she on SmackDown
Yeah, she's
or
in
Raw?
NXT. She's in NXT teaming with Shotzi and fucking oh god, I forgot her. Tatum Paxley.
Did Shotzi Blackheart stop tripping over her own dick finally? That's why they sent her out in a tank, don't you understand? They were like, if she rides out in a tank, she can't trip over her own dick. That's Shotzi Blackheart for you.
I'm so glad that I don't let people know I do this anymore.
Alrighty. So anyway, Stephanie Vader.
Can I petition to make that her official name going forward?
Absolutely.
I'm fine with that.
I legit thought that was her name when she came out at the Royal Rumble. And I'm like, what, Vader's daughter? Who is this? Couldn't have been more wrong. She's from Chile. It's Vaquer, not Vader.
Vaquer.
Whatever. Vader.
Vader's son actually was under a WWE deal for a while, Jake Carter.
Was he also a fat slob who they had to fire?
No, he was a unathletic slob who they had to fire.
Awesome.
He was tag team. He was Corey Graves' tag team partner when Corey started in NXT.
The Vader genes are strong. What do you think of this match?
I thought the opening match was really good, actually. I think Stephanie is something different for the women's division, which I think works.
Mm-hmm.
And Fallon has that almost Mandy Rose-esque Mean Girl vibe about her, which I think works for and you kind of see that whole Fatal Attraction, Fatal Influence crossover there with JC Jane's involvement in Wolf. And then Jasmine Nix is basically the new Gigi Dolan in the group. Mm-hmm. Fallon playing the part of Mandy Rose. Fallon actually is a former AEW girl.
Where is Mandy Rose?
Mandy Rose is on OnlyFans or Fansly or whatever the fuck's fan subscription service she's on.
Good for her. Anyway, she's not wrestling with the company anymore.
She's not wrestling with any company anymore. She did a one-off with Black Label Pro a couple of months ago, but that was only like a training combine. I don't think she actually had a match. I think she did a run-in and she like tore her quad. She Kevin Nash herself.
Oh, poor girl. All right. Anyway, I thought this was a good match. I thought Stephanie Vader. I actually like her a lot. I shouldn't make fun of her as much as I'm doing. I think that she is got a lot of the women on this show. I think her shit's pretty crisp. It's pretty crisp. It's snug. I don't see a lot of gaps in her wrestling. I thought this was a pretty good match.
And I think the big thing for Vaquer as well is the fact that she stands out as something different too, because she has a look and an aura about her that a lot of the random name generator girls in NXT don't necessarily carry with them. Yeah, she doesn't. Yeah, she comes out, like satanic goat whore, which is a lot different from every other girl in the goddamn company. Can I just say that satanic goat whore would be a phenomenal death metal man name? There's already a band called Goat Whore. They're from New Orleans, which is where tonight's episode of SmackDown was. Yeah, Goat Whore is fantastic, by the way. You should listen to him. All right, let's move on to the next match. We had, I don't know who any of these people were. Fraxium? Yeah, Nathan Frazier and Axiom. Fraxium. Josh Briggs and Yoshiki Inamura, the fat Japanese guy. It was okay. This was 10 minutes and 24 seconds. It was a perfectly serviceable tag team match. None of these guys really stuck out to me except that the Japanese guy was fat. So I would argue that Frazier and Axiom might be the best tag team in pro wrestling right now. That problem can't possibly be true. They don't dress or look the same. The problem is, why is the one guy clearly not Japanese or Mexican but wears a mask? Didn't we already have enough of this with Excalibur? So he is Hispanic. He's just not from Mexico. He's actually from Spain. Ice Cube in the movie Higher Learning pointed at a group of Latin Americans and said, and over there south of the border, there's only ever, according to Ice Cube and John Singleton, there's only ever Mexicans. So he's from Spain. Does that count? No. That means he's European. And that would also be the same if he were a dirty Portuguese. He does speak pretty fluent English, too. Do you remember A Kid from NXT UK? No. Well, that's who that is. Where's Ilya Dragunov? Injured. He tore his ACL. Why is everyone tearing everything all the time? He's actually supposed to be getting really close to coming back. This is what happens when I'm really tired, by the way. All right. No, this is situation normal for us.
I'm usually not this obnoxious. All right, what do you think of this? So, so the best tag team in the world versus two other guys. What do you think of this?
I like Briggs. I've liked Briggs for a long time. Inamura is supposedly a big deal out of all Japan. I didn't see it personally. I was not impressed. However, I do like Briggs, and I do think that Briggs has big potential there because Briggs was actually 1/3 of the NXT match of the year for 2024 with the triple threat between Briggs, Obafemi, and Donovan Dijak.
Is Dijak still around?
No, he got fired at the end of last year.
Okay.
That's why he's on the Indies right now doing that thing. Although the talk is he might be coming to TNA soon, so I'm hoping. I like Dijak.
All right, in the first match that actually had an impact on me and I paid any kind of attention to, Ethan Page, I know who he is, and Trick Williams, I know who he is too, because whoop that trick, that trick.
Try again.
No, Trick Williams is whoop that trick.
Yeah, but Ethan Page wrestled Javon Evans.
No.
Yes.
I'm looking at the Wikipedia. Ethan Page, Javon Evans. Let's try that again. Eddy Thorpe. I'm so tired. Eddy Thorpe defeated Trick Williams in a strap match. This was a good strap match. I don't know what a fucking Eddy Thorpe is. But,
Eddy Thorpe is Carl Fredericks. If you remember from New Japan's Young Lions group.
Oh, I kind of remember the Young Lions.
Do you remember? Anyway. Do you remember Alex Coughlin?
A little bit.
The guy that came up with Alex Coughlin through the Young Lions era was Carl Fredericks. That's Eddy Thorpe.
Okay. Well, anyway, I watched the package that led up to their match. I watched the match. I like Trick Williams. I like when people yell, "Whoop that trick." And I thought this was a good use of the strap. I was surprised Trick Williams didn't win, given how this match got set up. I'm curious to see if there's any more to this story, seeing as the bad guy won.
Well, I think they're going to have a rematch on NXT TV, and my guess is it probably happens at the show in the Garden, which was the other thing that I did want to talk to you about too. Is the fact that, but we can touch on it at the end of Vengeance Day. Is NXT's going to Madison Square Garden,
right,
for their next. So
Road
how
block, they're like their Tuesday name show, the
Tuesday pay-per-view. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Similar to what New Year's Evil was earlier back in January.
Yeah, Halloween Havoc. They do these periodically. And
in months that they don't have PLEs on Peacock, these would be their equivalent of the PLE for the month.
Right.
I think that Eddy Thorpe and Trick Williams run it back inside of the Garden there, and that's where Trick beats Eddy in order to get his rematch with Obafemi for the NXT Heavyweight Championship. But this was an opportunity to establish Eddy as somebody that's going to be a player in NXT going forward, whereas I think everybody can see the writing on the wall that Trick Williams' time in NXT is coming to a close sooner rather than later.
He needs to be in Vegas in the stadium with the entire audience yelling, "Whoop that trick." I don't care who he wrestles.
I think that they need to put him back with Mello for a while.
No, I do care who he wrestles. I need him to beat all three members of the New Day in one night while everyone yells, "Whoop that trick," and then never see the New Day again.
Why you got to do E like that? He's not even with them anymore.
Is he still crippled, or did he finally come back to wrestle? Okay. So who's left? We have
Xavier and Kofi.
Right. We have Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, and we have Kofi Kingston, who's 100.
I appreciate the Consequences Creed reference there. Not a whole lot of people are going to get that. I'm one of the few that will.
That's why I do this with you. I want to see Trick Williams beat the fuck out of Kofi Kingston and send him home after he's turned him into a balloon rabbit giraffe.
So Rhea and Alexa, Trick and Kofi. I'm sensing a theme. WrestleMania brought to you by Brazzers, apparently.
WrestleMania sponsored by OnlyFans. Anyway,
Mandy Rose resigned. What?
Yeah.
So I was actually a little disappointed by it, and I think the reason I was disappointed by it is I expected the match to be a little bit longer. It only clocked in at just a shade over 10, right?
Yeah, 10 minutes, 24 seconds, according to the
I expected it to be a little bit longer there. There wasn't a whole lot of middle portion of the match. They kind of went to Trick's heat segment towards the end there, and then Eddy ducked the Trick shot knee strike and then hit his own leaping knee for the finish.
Right. So we'll see what happens, but I have I enjoy Trick Williams, and I want to see more of what he does. Let's see next.
Trick is going to be a main eventer in WrestleMania one day.
For sure. All right. Now we are back to Ethan Page and Javon Evans. Javon Evans kind of reminds me of a shorter Montel, whatever the hell his name is. Montez Ford.
I could see that.
Hang on. My friend Neil here wants to get a note. I want to tell you about my friend Neil for a second. Neil spends 90% of his podcast either talking about restaurants he goes to or wrestling matches he's been to. Neil travels the world going to see wrestling matches, and then maybe comes home and does his job and maybe does a podcast. But he is saying here, I know more than you guys. Lol, what a great show. Yes, Neil, you would have to know more than me. You've been to all the shows. I watch one maybe a month. But I'm glad you're checking out our little podcast here in this corner of the world. So thanks, buddy. All ego, Ethan Page. I'm glad he didn't come out as the Karate Man.
I'm pretty sure they killed him in TNA.
I hope so. I like Ethan Page. He's definitely got that swarmy kind of MJF vibe to him. This was, I like the psychology of this one. This was a very old school, simple psychology thing of
Agreed.
I injured you before, and this whole thing is going to revolve around whether or not that injury is going to prevent you from winning this match.
And I think they worked it smart too by having him not focus on the jaw for most of the contest until they got right to the finish, where Javon Evans, his old independent name was Jay Malachi, Old Habits Die Hard, went for the springboard cutter, and Page swatted him out of the air with the sucker punch, setting up the I forget what the twisted grin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like this match a lot. I like Javon Evans. He kind of reminds me of like a GCW kind of guy, where it's like he's doing a lot of flippity doos. But unlike GCW, the flippity doos have purpose. They are timed appropriately. They are used efficiently, and he's not just flying all over the ring stupidly.
Similar in that regard to like Cedric Alexander, I would say.
I like him better than Cedric Alexander.
I think he's more personable than Cedric is, and I think that helps because he connects. He's
also more athletic than Cedric was.
100%, and also I do believe that there's also there's a part of Javon that connects with the current generation of fans as well, because he's young enough to be in touch with what a lot of the current generation of fans is talking about, is involved with. The
other thing is, again, if you're going to be the high flyer, flippity do, throw yourself hither and yon, I like that he did so. So my problem with a lot of wrestling matches is, you have these like blood feuds where, oh my God, I'm going to kill you. And then we finally get to the match and they just wrestle a match. It's like the Randy Orton Triple H thing from WrestleMania. A home invasion set up their WrestleMania match
with a collar and elbow tie up to start the match.
Right. Like, if you're that, and this kid gets in the ring and just throws himself like with reckless abandon.
Almost puts himself through the announce table as the opening spot of the match. Right. Yes.
And I was like, okay, I like that though. Like, you can't do that every week, but in a blood feud where a guy injured you and you may not have come back to wrestling. Yes, that is exactly what you do.
No, and I think that's what's especially crazy about this to me here is when you consider Javon Evans. You ready to feel old?
I'm already old, but go ahead.
Javon Evans is 20.
Yeah, I mean, my children are 10 and 14. What's your point?
My point is he's doing these kinds of matches on this kind of stage with that kind of a platform at the age of 20.
Yeah, some of us make, good use of the opportunities we have, and some of us are me. I mean, I don't begrudge him his successes, and better him than me throwing himself that way,
especially almost through the announce table.
My God,
I don't think I've seen Booker move that fast in 20 years.
That was so funny. It's just like, well, here we are. It was that quick. Like normally, like you see it coming, and everyone like politely moves their things off.
The only thing that would have made that better is if he would have taken out Booker. Seriously, I am so over him on commentary.
He threw himself out of that ring, and I heard the Wilhelm scream. I heard Yeah, it was good. It was good shit though. I enjoyed that. I really like Ethan Page.
My only concern about Javon Evans is Javon has the personality to go far. Javon has the ring set to go far. Javon has the look to go far. My only concern is I think Javon needs more muscle mass.
Yeah, he's a little skinny.
He's so lanky that a lot of his strikes.
Guy.
A lot of his strikes and a lot of his offense comes off as borderline unrealistic against a guy so much significantly bigger than him like Ethan Page is. And Ethan Page is not a huge dude himself.
Right. Well, if they actually had to go, WWE has never been able to get a cruiserweight division off the ground for any great length of time, but he'd have been a good cruiserweight.
Absolutely. I think he's going to be a guy we see in the North American title picture sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I wish he had. My only thing with him is I wish he had more of that. What the hell was his name? Velveteen Dream kind of personality, because they're sorely missing a Velveteen Dream, and it's a shame he turned out to be a sex pervert and things didn't work out. But
allegedly, in his case,
allegedly,
never anything officially confirmed for Patrick Clark.
Cool, and we also never saw him again.
No. He showed up. He just showed up on an independent show in fucking Vermont, of all places.
Well, I hope he kept his hands to himself. All right, in the co-main event,
two of us.
We had Obafemi defeating Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, who were in a bromance. It's fantastic. I like this match a lot. I like Obafemi. I'd never seen him before. This was literally my first exposure to Obafemi. He is a big boy. He's that guy has future world champion written all over it.
6'5", 320 pounds.
I'll tell you what, man. If Vince McMahon if to get out here, you rapist. If he was still around, Obafemi would already be the new world champion.
I mean, you're probably not wrong about that. But the thing about Femi is not only does Femi look the part, Femi acts the part as well. Like he has a presence about him that I think is something that a lot of NXT sorely misses at times. Because it doesn't matter how good you are when that bell rings. The old Bruce Pritchard line on Something to Wrestle was, do they pass the airport test? Like, do they stand out walking through an airport? Do they look like a star? Obafemi looks like a goddamn superstar.
Yeah, he absolutely does. I looked him up. I read about him. He's one of the guys. He was a shot putter in college. He came through their college athletes program.
University of Alabama after moving over from Lagos, Nigeria.
Right. My only problem is he's a little too plain Jane. Everything about him is his athleticism. He definitely has a look. But I don't really know who or he is as a person. He seems like I'm good athlete African guy, which isn't really enough.
Yeah.
And because he's good athlete African guy, he doesn't have like a natural heel character either.
He's not really a heel though.
No, I know that, but that's my point. If they just keep him kind of my problem is that he's Black African John Cena. But before John Cena found his thug character. When he was Ruthless Aggression John Cena.
I won't disagree that it's a very basic presentation, but I think for where Oba is in his career, it works for him.
Oh, no, it's fine now while he's on the small stage of NXT. But once he gets to the main roster, they either make him a terrorist or a zombie or a pirate. He needs something. And the problem is, good athlete African guy doesn't really lend itself to any of those things.
Somewhere Muhammad Hassan is sad.
I'm sad things didn't work out for Muhammad Hassan.
You and me both. I actually thought Mark Capani could have been something. It's just unfortunate the timing worked out the way that it did with him.
Yeah.
So
you know who I'm kind of drawing a comparison, and I don't know why things didn't work out for him the way that they better, because they did everything right with him, but for some odd reason the crowd was like, you're not the right. Everything about what you're doing is great and what we like about wrestling. But you're still not the right guy. Give all of this to a guy more deserving. What's his nuts? The last big Arab champion that they had.
Jinder?
Yeah, Jinder Mahal.
Who's actually Indian.
The Arab Indian, whatever.
He's actually Indian. He's Canadian Indian.
Oh, even better. And I remembered he was Indian after I said it out loud.
Yeah. You know who Obo reminds me of? A young Ahmed Johnson.
Yeah, and Ahmed Johnson that can actually work and doesn't say great googly moogly.
Yes, exactly. A eloquent Ahmed Johnson almost.
Right.
The issue is
Who isn't wearing 106 knee pads?
And for some reason, like 3 of them are down around his quad.
Yeah, exactly.
But back to Oba real quick here. The thing with Obafemi is, for me, is I think that the presentation is there. I think that the look is there. I think that the in-ring abilities are coming along. He's not to where he will get to as an in-ring performer, but that's just because he hasn't had a ton of opportunities against guys that are of that next level that could help him reach those next steps in his career path. The thing for Oba for me is I think that the raw natural talent is there. And when you're a guy his size, that raw natural talent, that raw natural athleticism, actually, you know who I think might be a better comparison for Oba? Monty Brown. Just without the natural charisma.
Yeah. I see big things for Obafemi, but they need to figure out what to do with him that'll really make him connect with the crowd. Otherwise, it's going to end up like Ruthless Aggression John Cena, and we know where that led.
You want my honest opinion about that? I got 2 words for Obafemi on the main roster.
Mm?
Paul Heyman.
Sure, maybe. The Paul Heyman's eventually going to die. They can't. Not everyone can have Paul Heyman, and they don't have anybody coming down that will be the next Paul Heyman.
Unfortunately, I agree with that. I don't think there is a next Paul Heyman in wrestling at all, period, to be fair.
I mean, yes, Paul Heyman had the gift of gab, and he had a good mind for wrestling. He didn't understand how checkbooks worked.
Yeah, clearly.
But, neither do most women. So, I understand. Hang on, I'll do it myself. Give me a moment. Everybody settle down now. You don't understand. Thank you.
I was actually bouncing a check there, but the rim shot works.
Have you seen this one? Or maybe you like this. I'm done now.
I hope so. Anyways, let's go to the other 2 participants in this contest here.
Grayson Waller is fucking money. When he finally gets like a good heel run on the main roster, he is going to be
been saying that since he was at NXT originally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Grayson Waller has it.
Yeah, Grayson Waller, and if they can never get MJF, if MJF just bypassed the WWE entirely, at least they got Grayson Waller. He's that good.
The thing for Grayson Waller for me is, I actually like Austin Theory as well, but I think Austin Theory comes off a little too bland at times.
Yeah.
Wrestling has a thing where you either have it or you don't, and it is very noticeable relatively early, whether you do or don't.
Right. I also think Austin Theory is a little too small. He has the same problem Javon Williams has. You'd have made a great cruiser.
Javon Evans.
Whatever.
Trick Williams. Well, you racist. But back to Grayson Waller here. As I was saying, they talk about you either have it or you don't when it comes to pro wrestling. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but whatever it is, Grayson Waller has it.
Yeah, he's really good. I enjoy Grayson Waller. I see big things in his future if he doesn't tear a quad. All right, this is a pretty good match, by the way. It's triple threats are hard to pull off, especially with with
the bromance angle involved as well.
Yeah, well, I thought that carried the whole thing. That and Obafemi's natural athletic ability. All right, and in the main event, we had Giulia versus Bayley versus Roxanne Perez versus Cora Jade, who did not trip over her own dick or fall off a skateboard. And this match lasted about 20 minutes, and Giulia won. I had to look up Giulia 12 times just to make sure I was reading what I wrote that she is. She wrestles in Japan. She's obviously made a life for herself there. She's not actually Japanese, though.
No, she's Italian.
Yes.
And fluent in like 6 different languages. She's basically the female Claudio.
Okay.
But so the thing with Giulia is Giulia came over after being like the next hyped thing out of Japan, similar to what Asuka was when Asuka was signed. Okay. Similar to what Io Shirai was when Io was signed. Similar to what Kairi Sane was when Kairi was signed.
Right.
Giulia is that next foreign star that's supposed to come in and carry the company. The problem for Giulia is Giulia came in at the same time that Stephanie Vaquer did, and Stephanie Vaquer dwarfs her in terms of charisma.
They did a thing at the end where the two of them, where Stephanie Vader came out and they looked at each other.
Petition to make that her name going forward.
Yeah, they looked at each other. They licked their lips. They rubbed their vaginas, and they turned and they faced the hard cam, and they both lifted up their titles, and then walked out Jordynne Grace, clearly signaling that it's these three broads that are going to be carrying the division for a while.
So the way that Vic Joseph sold the story of this Fatal 4-Way during the main event was actually really good. And I want to give Vic Joseph a lot of credit because I think Vic is probably the best commentator in the WWE right now.
Okay.
I enjoy Joe Tessitore on SmackDown. I think Michael Cole has come a long way from what Michael Cole used to be. But I do think that Vic Joseph is the best play-by-play guy in the company right now.
Well, it helps that no one's screaming in Michael Cole's ear anymore.
Especially the alleged sex pervert.
Yeah.
Rapist. Now I'm gimmick infringing. Anyways, so the cool thing about that was Vic Joseph kind of selling it as the story of the eras of NXT clashing.
Yeah.
You had the Four Horsemen women era with Bayley. You had the modern era of NXT with Giulia and Roxanne Perez. And then you had what many believe is the future of NXT with Cora Jade in this contest.
Interesting. Okay.
So I thought
I've watched a lot of women's wrestling over the past, 20 years. This is probably the best it's been in terms of they're not tripping and falling all over each other.
NXT is widely considered to be the best women's division in pro wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And it is loaded with people.
I've seen some sloppy fucking women's wrestling. I
Agreed.
I was looking for it. I didn't see too many blown spots. I didn't see a lot of klutziness. They didn't seem to be stepping on each other's dicks. It was solid wrestling. And it's funny you compared Giulia to Asuka, and she kind of wrestles her style too.
Very similar, yes. The beautiful madness, as Giulia calls herself. It's that frantic style, that lightning fast pace that Asuka used to keep up in her matches. Honestly, it's more specifically more like Io Shirai to me than Asuka specifically.
Well, hopefully she will put a garbage can on herself and dive off onto people.
You put her in a War Games, she's wearing a garbage can. Sorry, I don't make the rules.
Oh, wonderful. So this November we get to look forward to dueling garbage cans?
Potentially, although I don't think Giulia is going to be on the main roster by then, and War Games is now kind of a main roster thing.
Everything that was good about NXT is gone.
Everything that was good about NXT has been moved to the main roster.
That's what I mean.
Well, I mean, it makes sense now that their head booker runs Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll give you the last word here, but let me get my shit in. I haven't watched NXT in a dog's age, and I'm sure anyone listening to this who's, who this close to cutting themselves or having downing a bottle of alcohol to listen to me talk. I actually had fun watching it. I caught up with it this past week in between things I was doing because I'm a very busy man. I don't have time to remember people's names, like Trick Evans and Javon Williams. So
racist.
It's fine. I don't care. But I would say it's starting to win me back. I mean, I don't know if I don't have time to watch anything during the week. I work a lot. But in terms of keeping up on the product and watching more of these PLEs, I could definitely see myself doing that. I'm more invested now after watching Vengeance Day than I had been in the product for a couple of years since Braun Breaker's whole gimmick was knocking over styrofoam letters.
So that takes us back to the NXT 2.0 era, and I think that what a lot of people don't realize, and I kind of teased that I would talk about this at the end of the show here. I think what a lot of people don't realize about the NXT 2.0 era is that while visually it may have been nauseating, especially with the rainbow vomit color scheme, you think about where the WWE is right now, and you think about all of the people who came through the 2.0 era of NXT to get us to where we're at now. Carmelo Hayes is starting to make a name for himself on SmackDown. Braun Breaker is a huge deal on Monday Night Raw now. Grayson Waller is helping carry the tag team division with Austin Theory and A-Town Down Under. Tony D'Angelo is the NXT North American champion. He's the Italian mobster gimmick that NXT was doing during the 2.0 era. Hold on one second. This guy.
Okay.
For those of you listening audibly, that was a action figure visual assistant.
Yes. Harry keeps playing with his dolls on the air.
I do. No moves each though, because I'm a goddamn professional. Anyways, so you look at the people that started during that NXT 2.0 era. Trick Williams started during the 2.0 era.
Whoop that trick! Whoop that trick!
Just don't sing like Booker T, please. It takes everything in me not to throw my remote at the television when Booker starts yapping.
Yes or no? Have you ever seen Hustle and Flow?
I've seen bits and pieces, never the full movie.
Okay, so you know that's where Whoop That Trick came from, right?
Yes, the Terrence Howard's character in Hustle and Flow. Yes,
that is correct. Yes.
Yes, I do know some movie references.
Very good, Harry.
Gold star for me.
Yep.
Barry Horowitz backpack. That's right, Barry Horowitz reference. Top that. Anyway, back to what I was saying there. So NXT 2.0 gets knocked a lot, but it set the current stage for where the WWE is heading, where you have a lot of these next in line talents, a lot of these next generation talents that are starting to become bigger names, that are starting to become more influential and more affluential towards where the product is and where the product is going. And you're still seeing part of that in the NXT, the current black and silver version of NXT, no longer the black and gold variation, and away from the 2.0 scheme as well.
Okay. Anything else about Vengeance Day before we close out for the night?
Scale of 1 to 10, what did you give the show?
A solid 7.
I have it at an 8, so we're pretty close there. Who do you think? What was your favorite match or moment?
Probably Ethan Page and Javon Evans.
Agreed. I thought those two killed it in this. I thought those two told the perfect story there. I love the diversionary tactic of going away from the jaw injury and focusing on the ankle, except going back to the jaw to set up the finish.
It had the most even split between classic, work a body part wrestling, classic psychology, and
modern high flying and high spots.
High flying, and really the pepper on it, the spice was that this felt like a blood feud. I honestly don't think you guys hated each other, which it's not that everybody else did a bad job. It's the Peter Griffin line of I'm very aware I'm watching a performance. Every other match felt like this is what wrestling looks like. This is what we do. And I'm fine with it. I'm fine to suspend disbelief. I'm fine to go along for the show. Ethan Page and Javon Evans
felt like a fight.
Yeah. Where I forgot this is a performance.
Yeah, no, I get that. Plus, there's an old axiom in pro wrestling that red equals green.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw the blood feud there with the chair on the jawline of Javon in the setup to the match there that they showed in the video package before the match. Right. That kind of gave you the intuition that, yeah, maybe athletic contests up and down through the rest of the card, but these two are about to fucking fight.
Yeah, Javon Evans, like I said, he didn't. I mean, that first spot where he threw himself to the point where the camera didn't catch it. Like, I don't know if you noticed that. Like, they were focused
only the tail end of it.
It was like they were focused on, because he had gone to the outside, Ethan Page said. They were focused on Ethan Page, and then in comes this fucking scud missile from out of nowhere. Where the camera guy had to be like, ah!
Do you remember Austin Aries' low pay, the dive through the bottom and the middle rope?
Yeah.
That's what it was, because, and he still had that much height on it just because he's that freaking athletic. But
like I said, he's like Montel Ford.
Yes.
Yeah, Montel Williams. Got it.
This is how we do it.
Whoop that trick.
Jesus. Least favorite match or moment?
None of the matches were bad. I would say the one I was least interested in, the one where I was definitely not as focused, was the tag team match.
And I think that that's an unfortunate indictment on where the NXT tag division is right now, because there are good tag teams in the NXT tag division right now. Mm-hmm. Miles Bourne and Tavion Heights of the No Quarter Catch crew have a ton of potential. The issue is that Fraxium has basically beaten the entire tag division. I think they're setting up for Fraxium versus Hardys at Stand and Deliver.
That'd be a fun match.
NXT Tag Team Champions versus TNA Tag Team Champions.
Is Jeff finally clean, and is Matt like finally on his meds?
I think Matt being off of his meds would be his best friend. As far as Jeff being clean, God, I fucking hope so.
I don't need any more of Matt Hardy having a meltdown. Thank you.
Well, as long as Rebby Sky can keep her shit together too, because God damn, that bitch is crazy.
All of them Hardy people need to fucking take a Xanax and shut the fuck up.
Who would you say was your MVP for this show?
I mean, I just said Ethan Page versus Javon Evans was my favorite match, so I'm going to go with Ethan Page.
I'm going to give it to Vic Joseph.
Okay.
And I go back to the story we had in the Page versus Evans match. The discussion of the hatred between the hatred between Williams and Eddy Thorpe in the strap match there, and explaining why that match meant so much to Eddy Thorpe, because Eddy felt he had been robbed of opportunity after opportunity after opportunity by people like Trick Williams. Mm-hmm. And then the way that he put over the story of the different eras of the NXT women's division for the main event, in addition to the arrival of Jordynne Grace at the end of the show as well.
Yeah, that was fun. Jordynne Grace actually looks in shape now. She doesn't look like, a fucking dwarf. She's
bulked back. She's bulked back up, but in a healthy way.
Yeah, no, she doesn't look squat and fat anymore with bulgy muscles. Now she looks.
I thought thick Jordynne was the hot Jordynne personally.
You're a lunatic.
Just saying.
You're entitled to your opinion, but your opinion's wrong. Now she looks hot. Now she has a nice tiny waist, but a big muscly shoulders. She's got a nice looking torso. She looks good. She looks the best she's ever been.
There's talk that her husband's about to show up in NXT as well.
Who's Zack Ryder?
Jonathan Gresham.
Whatever.
Zack Ryder is Chelsea Green.
Right, and Chelsea Green used to come out on a tank.
All right, real quick.
Yeah,
I told you I had a story for you about NXT in the Garden.
Yeah, go.
Real quick here. So it's going to be at the theater at Madison Square Garden.
Right, where Owen Hart and Ken Shamrock did a thing.
The Lions Den match at SummerSlam 98 was going to be my reference. Yes, you are correct.
Mm-hmm. I know stuff.
Whether you remember it or not is discretionary.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, no, it'll be cool to see what happens with NXT going to the Garden here, because I think that's going to set up for a really big show. And then, like I said, I do think we're going to get NXT versus TNA Worlds Collide for Stand and Deliver this year, and that should be a lot of fun if that actually happens. Plus, they set the stage for Obafemi versus Moose on this most recent episode of NXT, and that shit's going to slap.
Oh, yeah. No, if fucking Moose, they start making use of the Moose on NXT, I will actually start watching. I loved Moose in TNA.
He just showed up at the start of this week's episode on Tuesday on CW.
Nice. All right. I might have to. Does NXT stream anywhere after it
CW app? Ugh. You can get it on the CW app. It's free.
You keep saying CW app like that means anything to me. I got rid of the CW. You know what? I'm wondering if I can watch it on Max then.
No, fuck me in the goat-ass. I don't want to download another stupid app. All right, this is my problem. I'll deal with it. But I can't suggest this on air, but I have an off-air suggestion for you if you would like.
It's fine. I'm being a baby. All right. Speaking of being babies, that's the end of our IndySiders show for this evening. We will be back. Somebody asked me, like, wait, you're recording late on a Friday night? I'm like, yes, I promised Harry. So we'll be back late again, April 4th. It looks like.
We can set up something for the middle of March if you want to.
No, I don't. I have way too much going on. The next
fuck me, I guess.
Yeah, fuck you. We got the IndySiders St. Louis Anarchy Gateway to Anarchy 2025, and that'll be April 4th, late at night yet again. Give me like 10 words on this show while you're making me do it.
Arguably the best booked independent promotion in the United States.
And this is on IWTV?
Correct.
What was the actual date of that show?
End of March, like 3:30, I think. 3:29, 3:30.
Oh, yeah. It's 7 o'clock, March 28th on IWTV. St. Louis Anarchy Gateway to Anarchy 2025.
And Gateway to Anarchy is like one of their marquee events of the calendar year.
All right, so it'll be fun to do an actual indie show and not,
NXT.
not what we did tonight. All right.
To be fair, NXT is basically a glorified indie.
Yeah. Okay, this past week, we did our West Wing review, Season 2, on Sunday the 16th. The very next day, we did Captain America, Brave New World. No show from Alexis this week. On Thursday...
That Captain America, is that the new one that just came out on my birthday on the 14th?
That's the one.
Okay.
Thursday, Jason and I did another Black History Month show. We looked at John Singleton, Poetic Justice, Higher Learning, and Baby Boy. Tomorrow night, Sunday night, we're back for sessions. We'll be doing a punk rock song about the night that between myself, Ronnie Adams, and Robert Winfrey, we made Jesse want to stick a pencil in his eye. I'll tell you all about it Sunday night. Monday is our Best Picture show. Yes?
Could be worse. You could stick a needle in his eye, Slipknot style.
We're going more for a no-effects pencil in my eye. Anyway, legitimately, Jesse said, I'm about to stick a pencil in my eye because of you guys. It was hilarious. Because we all know how even-killed Jesse is, and we drove him crazy. So
poor Starcher.
Yep. Speaking of driving people crazy, myself, Alexis, and Robert will be talking the 10 Best Picture nominees for the Oscars on Monday. Alexis will be doing a review of the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man because, boy, does she love her cartoons. And then we are closing out Black History Month, Jason and I, with Snakes on a Plane, Great White Hype, and Soul Men, which is a actor focus on the great Samuel L. Jackson.
Someone get these motherfucking snakes off this motherfucking podcast.
I just watched that with my kids, actually. All right.
Awkward.
You got anything going on with any of your people?
No, I'm still in podcast purgatory. IndySiders is about it right now. We're working on getting everything back up and running again with the Not a Podcast network, but that's a work in progress.
All right. For Harry Broadhurst, I have to poop. Be well, be safe, and behave.